What's up angels, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. It's been a while. I have no excuse for why I have not filmed a video other than I was filming for a while and then I think I had about 2 weeks where I filmed 3 videos in a day both times, and both times it was blurry, which obviously is very frustrating. I let my frustration get the better of me and then I just stopped filming and I would make excuses like, oh, I'm too busy with work, or just I'm too busy with work, which is not the case at all and I do have time. So I'm back. I'm not going to say many people have missed me, but I am back and I plan to stay. I'm actually going to film a few videos today because I go away with my mum and my stepdad and my little sister at the end of next week, so I want to make sure I have at least 3 videos filmed in advance so that we have those to carry us until I get back, and then hopefully while I'm away I can actually film the video with my mum that I talked about months ago, and we can finally get that sorted. But yeah, I am back. I plan to stay back. There is not really too much to catch you up on. I've been working a lot. I actually went on my first ever ghost hunt on Saturday night. I have been on the small ones before, so I actually went on one in the vaults with Becca and her friend Kerry at the end of in the summer last year, so around this time, but it was only a couple of hours we were down there. It was amazing, but we didn't really get much evidence. We weren't down there for too long, but I went alone on Saturday night and this is what this video is going to be about. I want to talk about a couple of bits of evidence that we had, that we caught. It was just a really good night. So yeah, I'm really excited. I did fully intend to film that entire experience. The only issue is that I didn't really want to we went for a walk beforehand and I'll go into it in a minute, but I didn't really want to carry my camera around that late at night in Edinburgh. There was a big group of us, but still, it's expensive equipment and I didn't really feel safe carrying that with me. But also, when we got down into the vaults, we were in groups, and whilst I could have asked if people would mind being filmed, I wouldn't have been able to post it because there's a specific rule in the terms and conditions that I signed before I went down that said that I can film for my personal use but not for public view. So that is why there's no clips. I'll probably insert a clip in a second that I took of me filming my equipment. So I have now got my REM pod and I've got my camera and the light that is on top of it, which is actually much better than the ring light that I had before because I can just attach it to my camera and that's how things go. And I put it all into my backpack and my camera and my light stayed in my bag and didn't come out. I did film the equipment beforehand. I tried to do like a old school Sam and Colby montage of me like filming my equipment, but it just didn't work out that way. But I do want to talk about it because it was really good. And yeah, so without further ado, let's get into the video. Okay, so I realised how much I rambled in that last clip. I will try not to ramble as much, but I am the queen of rambling, so yeah. On Saturday night, I went down and did a paranormal investigation / ghost hunt with Haunting Nights. If anybody is a fan of Seth Borden, Josh, Exploring with Josh, Exploring with Fighters, you will know that when they came to the UK they actually worked with Haunting Nights, and that is how I found the company, through watching their videos. And they did a paranormal investigation of the vaults. It was about 6 hours long. It was great. So when I first got there I was obviously alone. I was a little bit nervous going and doing stuff like that alone. Obviously there was a big group of people because I don't want to clickbait everyone and say I went ghost hunting alone, but I mean I didn't have any friends with me. We went down there. When I first got there I was stood outside. I was super early because I'm always super early for everything, and I immediately met 2 ladies. It was Sam and Dale. I don't have their contact details, which I'm really disappointed about. I should have got them, but I just didn't get them, so unfortunately I don't have them to contact them again and see if they'd like to go on one again. But for now, it's just gonna be me going alone to these things. But we went and had a drink in the pub next door, and then we came back out and then we met up with everyone outside that was getting ready. So I originally thought we were probably just going to go straight into the vaults and then downstairs. If you've been in the Edinburgh vaults, you'll know that you go down some steps, and that's how you get into the actual vaults itself. You have to go up some stairs and then down some more stairs into the vaults. But we didn't. They took us on a walk around Edinburgh. So they originally took us up the Royal Mile, and we stopped at one point. There is a very famous tale of, you can Google it online. There's a legend that there was a tunnel that went from the bottom of the Castle Rock all the way along down the Royal Mile to Holyrood, but the tunnel was very, very small, so they couldn't send like a full-sized man down there, so they sent a young boy. And they gave him a set of bagpipes, and supposedly he got halfway along and the bagpipes stopped. So he'd been playing them all the way along to let them know where he was, and they stopped. And they waited a few days, but he didn't come back. The bagpipes didn't start up again. So they, instead of sending someone else down there to see if he was still there, they just bricked up the hole to the tunnel, and supposedly if you walk down there on the night of the anniversary of when this was, you'll be able to hear bagpipes, and that's the little boy's spirit telling you that he's there. We also walked up to St Giles Cathedral. That used to be the Tolbooth prison back in the day, and it's also where the Heart of Midlothian is. So yeah, they told us about the prison and all the torture, and then we moved to Greyfriars Kirkyard. Greyfriars Kirkyard, for anybody who doesn't know, is supposedly the most haunted graveyard in the UK or in Europe. They've got the prison right at the back, and we can't go in, so there's only one company that can go into that has a key to the prison other than the council, and that is the City of the Dead, who are again a wonderful company. And so we couldn't go in there, but we just walked around, and they told us some stories in the kirkyard, and then we made our way back. Okay, so this is completely off topic. We walked up to the prison and we sat there for a bit, and usually, I've been up to this prison many times. Obviously we couldn't go in because we didn't have permission, and we weren't with City of the Dead, but I'm usually completely fine up there. I've been in the prison itself, I've done the ghost tours, I've been in the Black Mausoleum, which is inside the prison. For anybody who doesn't know, it's not Mackenzie's mausoleum, which is actually out just in the kirkyard. But this is the first time that I felt physically sick standing outside of it, to the point where I had to go and sit down. And I know this was about midnight when this happened, so maybe I was tired, if we want to debunk it, but I did. I felt very, very nauseous, very tired. I started to get a headache, and so as soon as we left, I was like the first one away from it, which is really odd for me. Usually I'm fine up there, but I did start to get very, very nauseous and dizzy and just not feel myself. So then we made our way to the vaults, and we had a small break. And to anybody that's watched my videos before, everyone is going to be at the end of this like, you did what? But we went back to the vaults, we went upstairs, had a small break, and then they split us into 3 groups. So I'd say there was about 25 of us, but I didn't count, like I didn't do a head count, so I can't tell you exactly how many people were in the vaults doing this investigation, but there was a big group of us. They split us into 3 groups, so there was like a seance, and then some table tipping, and then a Ouija board, which was the one that my group did last. So we first went in the seance room, we're calling out, we had EMF readers on the floor. The seance room, for anybody who's been in the vaults, was the black room, so it's pitch black down there, you can't see anything, and there's a door up on the wall of the vaults, and I may have spoken about this before in a video, so I'm just making sure we're still filming. But I don't like it in that room. I feel like if somebody stood in the doorway, I feel like someone's watching me. It makes me feel extremely panicked. Okay, so we went in there, we did a seance, we all sat in a circle holding hands, we put EMF readers on the floor, someone popped my REM pod up in the doorway, and we also had some cat balls on the floor. These cat balls, by the way, are great. Like, I need to invest in some for when I start doing my own investigations. And what we did is we all sat there and we were calling out, and the cat ball was going off behind us. It wasn't in the middle of the circle, but you can obviously see it out the corner of your eye when it goes off, when we were calling out. I then called out and invited any spirits to join us in the circle, and then the EMF readers started going off in the middle, so that was a really cool moment. And then obviously these vaults are made of stone, so my legs started to hurt, so I wanted to stand up. So we all stood up and we moved back, still in a circle, obviously not holding hands anymore, but further back. And we stood there, and I was told the first time I went down that there is a little boy in these vaults and his name is Jack. Okay, and I don't know too much about Jack. I'd like to go back down and maybe learn some more or speak to someone, but I believe that I've met Jack before in the vaults, as in on the first investigation I spoke about, because I had hooped earrings in and it felt like the whole night my hoop was being pulled. And again, there are other children down there, so it could have been any of them. But I just called out and said, because I also feel like there's a really nasty spirit in that room, and he stands up in the doorway, and I don't know if he's the watcher or who he is, but I just don't like him. I don't like him, he's not my person. So yeah, so I went and stood under the doorway and I put my hand out, and because a lot of the activity had stopped, I just said, Jack, if you're here, you can come and hold my hand. And just before I said that, there was a lady who works with a company that it said, Chelsea, is your hand out? And I said, I did have my hand out before, but I've moved it again. Maybe I should put it back out again. So I put it out and I called out and I was like, if Jack or any little children are here and they're frightened, you're more than welcome to come and hold my hand. My hand went ice cold, my hand went numb. It was like the coolest experience. And then just after that, we moved to our next session, which is table tipping. I could not stand to do table tipping for too long. For anybody that knows, you kind of sit down and do it, but you put your hands on the table just very lightly, and you ask, and on the table there is yes, no, hello, goodbye, and you tip it and you ask questions. I was stood up doing it, and again, this is probably just because I was stood up and tired. I got very dizzy about 5 minutes in and I just didn't want to do it anymore, which I'd love to try it again and see if it works, but I sat back and watched the others do it, and we were getting little bits of information. One of the ladies had a spirit box on her phone, like one of those apps, and so we were getting stuff through. We got a couple of names, and that was really cool. And then we had another break. So yeah, then we had another little break and we got some free time. So I actually went back into the room alone. I went back in the room that's pitch black alone with my REM pod and my EMF reader just for a second, and then I got a bit frightened, so I asked a couple of people to come and join me because I didn't really want to be sat in there alone. I'll be honest, it was scary. I was scared, guys, okay? I was scared. And we came in, we weren't really getting too much evidence. Again, the EMF reader was spiking slightly, and then we all got called back for our last session. I did walk with a couple of people up to the other end of the vaults, so for anybody who's been in the Niddry Street vaults, there's the vault right at the end that goes up the little stairs. We went in there. That room is really heavy, and I think there's a lot of things around it that cause it to be quite warm up there, but it is a very heavy energy, and I think I'm going to start trying not to use like dark energy because it's heavy and light energy, and I'm going to make a whole other video on something else that I've been learning about myself and just personally. That might be the next video you see. I'm going to film that today. And it's a very heavy energy. A lot of women feel uncomfortable there. I've actually, when we went with our friend Kerry, she actually got a headache when we were stood up there, and we were only in there for about 10 minutes to start with, but Kerry did start to feel quite unwell, so we left that room eventually, obviously, and then we got called back into our last session, and our last session was the Ouija board. So for anybody who knows me or has watched my videos before, you will know that I am so dead against Ouija boards. They scare me, they terrify me. I will be honest, it's not for me. It has never been for me. I spoke to my mum, so for those of you that haven't watched a video before, my mum is a psychic medium, And my mum had told me before that it is perfectly okay, after years by the way. My mum spent years telling me not to play with Ouija boards, but she did tell me back last year that if it is in a controlled environment with people who know what they're doing, I should feel perfectly comfortable, and it's okay for me to sit and do a Ouija board. However, we went up the steps, and to start with, I sat back. I didn't want to join in, I just sat and watched them doing the Ouija board, and then one of the lovely ladies that works with Haunting Nights was like, is anybody sure that they don't want to try? And I was like, I want to try, like I want to do it. And that Ouija board session was amazing. We didn't get too much evidence. I came and joined the table, we asked if there was anybody there that had, if there was anyone there, it went to yes, I think. Again, this is like 4 o'clock in the morning, so my memory of this bit is a little bit foggy. We asked how old the person was, and the jar moved, we had a glass, and the glass moved to 5. I asked again for them to clarify, and it moved to 5. And obviously you have to think back to when these vaults were actually first in, the vaults were first in use, when they were in use back in the day, and whether or not a 5-year-old would be able to read and write. A lot of 5-year-olds now are just learning to read and write at that age, but back then there would have been no school for these children, especially if they were down in the vaults. They probably would have been orphans. In fact, we did ask if this spirit was an orphan, and he said yes. I'm saying he because I had called out and asked if it was Jack, and it went to yes. So we flipped the board over and we put a coin on one end for yes and left the other end of the board blank. And so we asked if it was Jack, he said yes. We asked as well who he would like to speak to, if the spirit that was there was anybody that had someone specifically that they wanted to talk to. The glass moved to me. And then I asked him to clarify again, the glass moved to me, which was nice. We asked if he was an orphan, he said yes. I asked if it was Jack, he said yes. And somebody asked, does Chelsea remind you of somebody that you knew when you were alive? The glass moved to yes. And then I said, was that person kind to you, Jack? And he said yes. And for anybody that knows me, I am a very empathic person. I would describe myself as an empath. I am very emotional, and I promise you I had to do everything in my power not to cry. It was just a very sweet moment. But yeah, so that was the end. And then, well, it wasn't the end of we then went out into the hallway, and we all stood in the hallway of the corridor of the vaults, and we did another little vigil, and other things were happening up the other end, and I don't know really what happened, but I think that there was somebody that was quite sensitive or an intuitive or a psychic medium, and he was getting a lot of responses and feelings, and so I wish I had been that end to experience that. But we were actually at the other end of the vaults, right down at the bottom, and we had a cat ball, and there is supposedly a spirit down there of a man, and his name was Edward. So Edward was a serial killer back in the day who victimized women, whose victims were women. And it was a big group of women down there, and the lady was chatting about Edward, and the cat ball went off, and we were just having, it seemed like we were having a conversation about him, and he was having a response to that conversation, but he wasn't allowed to be a part of it because he obviously killed a lot of women, and women are just strong and powerful anyway, but we were all very confident, strong women, and so he just wasn't allowed to be a part of the conversation, but he was part of the conversation because he was responding. I mean, overall it was amazing. It was a really great experience. There wasn't, I mean, I was about to say we didn't get tons of evidence in my group, but we had that Ouija board session, and we had the cat ball going off in the seance, and we were getting things through on the spirit box. So it was a really great evening, and I'd love to go on one of them again. I actually really hope that I can get to Jedburgh Jail because they do one there. They also do one on the SS Discovery, which if anybody does watch Josh and Steph's videos, you'll know that the boys did while they were there. There are actually some down in Bristol that I would quite like to go to, and I'd really like to do their Pendle Witch one, but again this all requires Chelsea to travel so I hope that we will get there eventually. But yeah, overall my experience with Haunting Nights was great, and I would definitely recommend it to everybody else. And yeah, so that's my ghost hunting experience, my first one. It was amazing. Okay, so I think that is the end of this video. I don't think I've got anything else to say. I think at the beginning of this video I thought I had something else to say. I'm sure it will come back to me and maybe I'll add it in. I don't know how long this video is. It's probably quite a short video, but I'm back. I had a great experience with Haunting Nights. I definitely recommend their company. And yeah, so that's it. I hope everyone is okay. I hope everyone's doing well and is happy and healthy. And I will see you angels next week for another video. Bye!